The word superfood gets thrown around so casually that most people have stopped taking it seriously. It shows up on smoothie packaging, on wellness blogs, in supplement advertising. It's been commercialized to the point where it sounds like marketing language rather than a meaningful, nutritional concept. But strip away the marketing, and what you're left with is a simple, important idea. Some foods do far more for the human body per calorie, per gram, and per dollar than others. And when you're planning for a long-term crisis, a scenario where normal food supplies have broken down, where variety is gone, where your body is under sustained physical and psychological stress, so the difference between ordinary stored food and genuinely nutrient-dense stored food is the difference between surviving and functioning. Most preppers stock for calories. Calories keep you alive. But calories alone, without the micronutrients, proteins, healthy fats, and bioactive compounds your body depends on, lead to a slow-motion deterioration. Your immune system weakens. Your cognitive function declines. Your ability to heal from injuries slows. Your energy and mood become unpredictable. These aren't abstract concerns. They are documented, predictable consequences of surviving on caloric staples without nutritional diversity. History confirms this repeatedly and brutally. Scurvy, vitamin C deficiency, was responsible for the deaths of more sailors than combat during the Age of Exploration. Vasco da Gama lost 100 of his 160 scurvy on his first voyage to India. The British Navy didn't solve the problem for nearly 300 years after it was first described. Pellagra, a niacin deficiency, killed hundreds of thousands of people in the American South in the early 20th century when their diet became too narrowly dependent on corn without adequate nutritional diversity. Beriberi, a thiamine deficiency, devastated populations across Asia who shifted to polished white rice as a dietary staple. The milling process that made the rice white stripped away the B vitamins in the bran that the body depended on. Kwashiorkor, a severe protein deficiency, has driven chronic cognitive and developmental impairment in populations across sub-Saharan Africa when caloric availability outpaced protein availability. These were not fringe populations in unusual circumstances. They were ordinary people whose food access narrowed in ways they hadn't anticipated, and who paid the price over weeks and months as their bodies gradually failed. The pattern is always the same. People got enough calories to stay alive, but not enough of the right nutrients to stay healthy. They survived, but deteriorated. And in a genuine long-term crisis, deterioration is not an acceptable outcome, not when your physical and cognitive capacity is the only resource standing between your family and the problems the situation will generate. Today we're counting down 10 superfoods that belong in every long-term crisis stockpile. These aren't trendy supplements or exotic items that cost $50 a bag. They are foods with exceptional, research-backed nutritional profiles that store well, cost reasonably, and deliver tangible survival value when the systems we normally depend on are no longer functioning. We start at number 10 and work toward number 1, the single most powerful survival superfood you could possibly stockpile. Stay with it through the full list. The most important items are at the end, and a few of them will genuinely surprise you. Number 10. Spirulina. Spirulina is a blue-green algae that has been consumed as food for centuries, most notably by the Aztec civilization of Mesoamerica and communities around Lake Chad in Central Africa, who harvested and dried it from natural water sources. The Aztecs called it tequitlatl and harvested it by skimming mats of it from the lake surface with fine mesh nets, then drying it in the sun into cakes. Modern nutritional science has confirmed what those civilizations discovered empirically. Spirulina is one of the most nutrient-dense foods ever identified by modern analysis. By dry weight, spirulina is approximately 60 to 70% complete protein, meaning it contains all 9 essential amino acids your body cannot synthesize on its own. By comparison, beef is roughly 25% protein by weight. Dried lentils are around 25%. Spirulina's protein density is exceptional by any standard. It also contains significant amounts of B vitamins, including B12, which is almost entirely absent from plant foods, beta-carotene, gamma-linolenic acid, and a range of antioxidants, including phycocyanin, the compound responsible for its distinctive blue-green color that support immune function and reduce inflammatory markers. For long-term storage, spirulina is typically available in powder or tablet form. Stored in a sealed container away from light and heat, it remains potent for 2 to 3 years. A single tablespoon of spirulina powder, mixed into water, juice, or food, provides an enormous nutritional contribution to what might otherwise be a calorie-dense but micronutrient-poor meal. Blend it into a morning drink, stir it into soup, or mix it into grain dishes. The flavor disperses and becomes nearly undetectable when combined with strongly flavored foods. In a crisis where fresh vegetables and diverse protein sources have disappeared, spirulina functions as a concentrated nutritional insurance policy. A kilogram of spirulina powder, enough for a daily tablespoon for approximately 3 years, costs between $20 and $50 depending on the source. Few purchases offer this level of long-term nutritional security per dollar spent. Compare that to multivitamin tablets, which provide a narrow synthetic range of micronutrients at far higher cost without the protein, essential fats, and natural bioactive compounds that whole food spirulina delivers. The taste is an acquired one, earthy, faintly oceanic, which is why tablets are preferable for people who find the flavor difficult. But in a serious long-term scenario, flavor preferences become secondary to what your body actually needs. One more thing worth knowing. Spirulina is one of the most sustainable food sources on Earth, producing up to 10 times more protein per acre than conventional livestock and requiring a fraction of the water. Store it cool, dark, and sealed. Check expiration dates and rotate your stock annually. Per dollar spent, per gram of nutrition delivered, and per cubic inch of pantry space occupied, spirulina is one of the highest value preparedness purchases available. Number 9. Moringa. Moringa oleifera is a tree native to South Asia and widely cultivated across tropical and subtropical regions worldwide. It is sometimes called the miracle tree, not because of marketing hyperbole, but because virtually every part of it is edible, medicinal, or useful. Leaves, pods, seeds, flowers, and bark all have documented applications in traditional medicine and nutrition. In countries across West Africa, South Asia, and Central America, moringa is used as a primary nutritional intervention for malnourished children because it delivers micronutrients that are otherwise absent in aid food packages. The dried leaf powder is what interests us for crisis stockpiling. Gram for gram, moringa leaf powder contains 7 times the vitamin C of oranges, 4 times the calcium of milk, 4 times the vitamin A of carrots, 3 times the iron of spinach, and 2 times the protein of yogurt. These are not small differences. They are orders of magnitude more than what comparable weight of conventional foods provides. In a scenario where you are eating rice and beans every day, moringa powder stirred into those meals is the difference between meeting your micronutrient needs and slowly developing deficiencies that will affect your health over weeks and months. Moringa also contains a compound called isothiocyanate, which has demonstrated antimicrobial properties in laboratory research. The seeds of the moringa tree have been used for centuries to purify water. Crushed moringa seeds produce a natural flocculant that causes suspended particles and some bacteria in turbid water to clump and settle, leaving clearer, cleaner water suitable for a second stage of purification. This dual-use property, nutritional supplement and water treatment aid, makes it uniquely valuable in austere environments where water quality cannot be guaranteed. Dried moringa powder stores well for 1 to 2 years in a sealed container away from moisture and light. It has a mild, grassy flavor that blends easily into soups, stews, and grain dishes without dramatically altering the taste. Stock it the same way you stock vitamins, as an everyday nutritional supplement that becomes irreplaceable when fresh food access disappears. 100 grams costs $5 to $10 at bulk supplement retailers. You don't need large quantities because the nutritional return per gram is so high. Even a half teaspoon per day per person adds up to meaningful coverage over months. There is also a self-sufficiency angle worth considering seriously. Moringa trees grow rapidly in warm climates, reaching harvestable height within 6 to 8 months from seed and regenerating aggressively after cutting. Each tree produces leaf material continuously, as long as it isn't killed by frost, and in frost-free regions, it becomes a perennial nutritional asset rather than an annual crop. If you live in a warm region, USDA zones 9 through 12, or have greenhouse capacity, a moringa tree is one of the most productive nutritional investments you can make. The leaves harvested, dried in the shade to preserve heat-sensitive nutrients, and powdered provide ongoing micronutrient coverage indefinitely for as long as the tree lives. For preppers thinking beyond stockpiling toward genuine food self-sufficiency, moringa deserves serious consideration as a living nutritional asset rather than just a storable supplement. Number 8. Turmeric. Turmeric is the bright yellow-orange spice derived from the root of the curcuma longa plant, best known in Western cuisine as a component of curry powder. In South and Southeast Asian traditional medicine, turmeric has been used for over 4,000 years as an anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial, digestive aid, and wound treatment. Modern biomedical research has spent decades investigating these traditional applications and has produced a substantial body of evidence supporting many of them, making turmeric one of the most studied medicinal foods in the world. The active compound is curcumin. Curcumin is one of the most studied natural anti-inflammatory compounds in existence, with over 10,000 published studies in peer-reviewed biomedical literature. Chronic inflammation underlies a wide range of serious health conditions: cardiovascular disease, arthritis, neurological decline, immune dysfunction. In a long-term crisis scenario, sustained physical stress, poor sleep, inadequate nutrition, and psychological strain all drive inflammatory processes that compound over time. Regular turmeric consumption provides meaningful, evidence-backed anti-inflammatory support without any pharmaceutical inputs. Curcumin also has documented antimicrobial properties against a broad spectrum of bacteria and fungi, including strains that have developed resistance to antibiotics. In environments where hygiene is compromised and infection risk is elevated, conditions that routinely develop in extended crisis situations, this matters significantly. Turmeric applied topically to minor wounds and skin irritations has been used in traditional medicine for centuries as an antiseptic, and this application remains useful when pharmaceutical antiseptics are unavailable. Turmeric taken internally supports gut microbiome health as well, which is particularly important when dietary variety collapses and digestive stress increases. Dried ground turmeric stores for 3 to 5 years when sealed and kept away from light and heat. It is inexpensive. A kilogram costs between $5 and $15 in bulk, and it dramatically improves the flavor of the grains, legumes, and preserved proteins that will form the bulk of any long-term food stockpile. A pot of plain rice and lentils becomes something satisfying when you add turmeric cumin, black pepper, and a little salt. It belongs in your pantry regardless of whether you ever face a crisis. One critical practical note: curcumin's bioavailability, the degree to which your body absorbs and uses it, increases dramatically when consumed with black pepper. The compound piperine in black pepper inhibits the rapid metabolization of curcumin in the liver and intestinal wall, increasing absorption by up to 2,000%, according to some studies. This is not a trivial detail. If you are stockpiling turmeric for its anti-inflammatory and immune-supporting properties, stockpile black pepper alongside it. Both are inexpensive, shelf-stable for years, and, together, they form one of the most cost-effective anti-inflammatory nutritional tools available outside of prescription medication. Add fat, coconut oil, for instance, and absorption increases further still. These three ingredients belong together in your pantry and in your daily cooking now, so the habit is established before it becomes essential. Number 7. Chia seeds. Chia seeds come from Sulphia hispanica, a flowering plant native to central Mexico and Guatemala. The Aztecs and Maya cultivated them as a primary food source for thousands of years. The word Kia itself comes from the Nahuatl word for strength, and Aztec warriors reportedly carried small pouches of Kia seeds as concentrated field rations, believing a single tablespoon could sustain a person through a full day of physical labor. Modern nutritional analysis explains why that reputation was earned, and why chia seeds have maintained their status in human food culture across nearly 6,000 years of cultivation. A single ounce of chia seeds, roughly 2 tablespoons, provides approximately 11 grams of fiber, 4 grams of protein, 9 grams of fat, of which the majority is omega-3 fatty acids, and meaningful amounts of calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, and manganese. The fiber content is exceptional. In a long-term crisis diet heavy in refined grains and low in fresh vegetables, fiber becomes scarce, and the digestive consequences are real, uncomfortable, and demoralizing. Constipation, bloating, and digestive discomfort compound the psychological strain of an already difficult situation. Chia seeds address this gap directly and consistently. The omega-3 fatty acids in chia seeds, primarily alpha-linolenic acid, or ALA, support cardiovascular and neurological function. In a scenario where fatty fish, flaxseed, and other omega-3 sources are unavailable, chia seeds become one of the only practical omega-3 sources in a shelf-stable pantry. The body's ability to convert ALA to the longer-chain EPA and DHA that the brain uses most efficiently is limited, but regular ALA consumption is meaningfully better than no omega-3 intake at all, particularly during extended periods of cognitive demand. The unique property most associated with chia seeds is their ability to absorb up to 12 times their weight in water, forming a gel that slows digestion, stabilizes blood sugar, and creates a sustained feeling of fullness. In a rationed food environment, foods that produce satiety efficiently and stabilize blood sugar are disproportionately valuable. The gel that forms when chia seeds are mixed with water creates a pudding-like consistency that is filling, pleasant, and requires no cooking. Complete preparation that works with nothing more than water and time. Chia seeds store for 4 to 5 years in a sealed container in cool, dark conditions. They require no cooking, no preparation, and no tools to consume. They can be added directly to water, mixed into food, or eaten dry. There is also a practical hydration benefit worth noting. When chia seeds form their gel by absorbing water, that water is released slowly during digestion, providing more gradual hydration retention than plain water alone. In a water-rationed environment, this matters. A tablespoon of chia seeds mixed into a cup of water and left for 15 minutes produces a gel drink that delivers the seed's full nutritional profile along with extended hydration retention. stock at least a few kilograms. They are light, compact, and the caloric and nutritional value per pound is among the highest of any item in this list. Number 6. Coconut oil. Fat is the most calorie-dense macronutrient available to the human body. At 9 calories per gram, more than double the caloric density of protein or carbohydrates, fat is the most efficient way to store energy in a compact, shelf-stable format. And among shelf-stable fats, coconut oil occupies a unique position that extends far beyond its caloric density into its chemistry, its functional versatility, and its usefulness across applications that have nothing to do with cooking. Conventional cooking oils, vegetable oil, canola oil, sunflower oil have shelf lives of 1 to 2 years and degrade significantly before reaching that point, developing rancid compounds called aldehydes and lipid peroxides that are both unpleasant and potentially harmful with chronic consumption. Coconut oil, particularly virgin or refined coconut oil, is approximately 90% saturated fat. Saturated fats are chemically stable. They resist oxidation because the carbon chains are fully saturated. There are no double bonds for oxygen to attack. They do not go rancid under the conditions that rapidly degrade unsaturated oils. An unopened container of refined coconut oil has a shelf life of 2 years at room temperature and significantly longer when stored cool and dark. Virgin coconut oil stored properly can remain usable for 3 to 5 years. The primary fatty acid in coconut oil is lauric acid, which constitutes approximately 50% of its composition. Lauric acid is classified as a medium-chain triglyceride, which means it is metabolized differently from long-chain fats. It is absorbed directly into the portal circulation and transported to the liver, where it is rapidly converted to energy rather than stored. This makes coconut oil a particularly efficient caloric source during periods of high physical demand. Lauric acid also has demonstrated antimicrobial properties in laboratory research, showing activity against several strains of bacteria, viruses, and fungi. When metabolized, it produces monolaurin, a compound that disrupts the lipid membranes of certain pathogens. This is not a substitute for medical care, but it represents a meaningful immune support function that most shelf-stable fats do not provide. In a long-term crisis, coconut oil provides caloric density, a versatile cooking medium, skin and hair moisturization without needing separate products, wood conditioning for cutting boards and utensils, rust prevention for cast iron cookware, and even lamp fuel in a pinch when burned in a wick-style oil lamp. Few pantry items earn their shelf space across this many categories simultaneously. The multi-use argument for coconut oil is as strong as for any item on this list. Buy in bulk containers, 1 gallon or larger, which offer significantly better value per ounce than smaller retail sizes. Decant into smaller glass jars for daily use once opened and keep the bulk supply sealed. In warm conditions, coconut oil will be liquid. In cool conditions, it solidifies into a white, waxy state. This temperature-dependent phase change has no effect on nutritional value or shelf life. Both states are equally usable. Stock it in the same place and with the same priority as your staple grains. Number 5. Apple cider vinegar. Apple cider vinegar appears on this list not primarily as a food but as a functional survival substance that happens to be edible, affordable, and shelf-stable. Its uses in a crisis scenario span food preservation, surface disinfection, digestive health, and personal hygiene, a range of functions that no other single pantry item matches. If you had to choose one liquid to stock beyond water, apple cider vinegar makes a compelling argument for the position. The active component, responsible for most of its functional properties, is acetic acid, present at approximately 5% concentration in standard commercial apple cider vinegar. At this concentration, it is bacteriostatic against a wide range of common foodborne pathogens, including E. coli, Salmonella, and Staphylococcus aureus. This makes it useful as both a food preservative and a surface disinfectant when commercial cleaning products are unavailable or exhausted. A spray bottle of diluted apple cider vinegar, 1 part vinegar to 1 part water, cleans and disinfects food contact surfaces, cutting boards, and hand tools adequately for most everyday purposes. As a food preservative, apple cider vinegar has been used for millennia across virtually every agricultural civilization that had access to it. Vegetables, eggs, and proteins submerged in or treated with vinegar solutions are protected from spoilage through acidity that disrupts the enzymatic activity and membrane integrity of spoilage bacteria. Pickling cucumbers, onions, garlic, beets, and green beans with apple cider vinegar produces foods that are safe at room temperature for months in sealed jars, extending the usable life of garden produce or foraged vegetables dramatically. This is invaluable when refrigeration has failed and fresh food needs to be preserved quickly. Internally, apple cider vinegar has documented effects on blood glucose regulation. Consuming a tablespoon diluted in water before carbohydrate-heavy meals reduces post-meal blood glucose spikes by slowing gastric emptying and improving insulin sensitivity. In a diet dominated by grains and starches, this is a meaningful metabolic benefit that contributes to steadier energy and reduced inflammatory burden. Apple cider vinegar with the mother, the cloudy, unfiltered variety containing strands of beneficial bacteria, also supports gut microbiome health when dietary diversity is severely reduced. One application most people overlook: diluted apple cider vinegar as a hair and scalp rinse. 1 part vinegar to 4 parts water removes buildup, restores scalp pH, and reduces bacterial and fungal growth that causes dandruff and scalp irritation. It also works as a natural deodorant applied to underarms after dilution, a foot soak for fungal prevention, and a skin rinse for minor irritation. In a crisis where normal hygiene products are unavailable for weeks or months, multi-purpose personal care becomes a genuine quality-of-life factor with measurable psychological implications. An unopened bottle of apple cider vinegar has an essentially indefinite shelf life due to its acidity, which is self-preserving. It does not spoil and requires no special storage conditions beyond keeping it away from direct sunlight. Stock several large bottles. The 1-gallon containers available at warehouse retailers cost $3 to $4 and provide enough vinegar for both daily culinary use and periodic cleaning and food preservation applications over months of use. Number 4. Oats. At number 4, we arrive at something that might seem too ordinary for a superfood list. Oats are not exotic, they're not expensive. They don't carry the mystique of spirulina or the ancient warrior reputation of chia seeds. They are, in the most straightforward sense, a completely ordinary food that most people eat for breakfast without giving it much thought. And that ordinariness is precisely why they belong this high on the list. In a long-term crisis, the psychological toll of eating unfamiliar or unpleasant food every day is underestimated by virtually everyone who hasn't experienced it. Food fatigue. The grinding exhaustion of eating the same foods repeatedly, especially foods you don't enjoy, causes people to undereat, make poor decisions about their food stores, trade away nutritious items for more familiar ones, and experience a kind of low-grade misery that compounds all the other stresses of the situation. Military field ration designers have understood this for decades, which is why they invest heavily in flavor variety and familiarity. Oats are something most people already eat, already enjoy, and can tolerate every single day without significant food fatigue. They are also objectively excellent nutrition. A single cup of dry rolled oats contains approximately 5 grams of fiber, primarily beta-glucan, a a soluble fiber with the most robust evidence base for cholesterol reduction and blood sugar stabilization of any dietary fiber, 6 grams of protein, and meaningful amounts of manganese, phosphorus, magnesium, copper, iron, zinc, and B vitamins. The caloric density is good, approximately 300 calories per cup dry, from a food that expands significantly when cooked with water. Beta-glucan specifically activates macrophages and neutrophils, two of the immune system's primary first responders, making oats a legitimate functional food for immune support during periods of prolonged physical and psychological stress. Rolled oats sealed in an airtight container in a cool, dry location last 2 to 5 years. In Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers, which you can assemble yourself inexpensively, the shelf life extends to 10 years or more, which means oats purchased today could be feeding your family a decade from now without degradation. They require nothing beyond water and a heat source to prepare. Cold oats soaked overnight in water require no cooking fuel at all. They soften through enzymatic and physical action and are entirely palatable eaten cold with whatever sweetener or flavoring you have available. Add a tablespoon of chia seeds and a teaspoon of honey, and you have a complete, nutritious, filling breakfast with zero fuel consumption beyond the passage of 8 hours. A 25-pound bag of rolled oats costs approximately $15 to $25 at warehouse retailers and provides roughly 90 servings. At 1 serving per day, that's 3 months of breakfast from a single bag. Scale that to a family of 4, 100 pounds of oats is $60 to $80 and covers 3 months of morning meals for everyone. No other food in this price range delivers this combination of caloric density, fiber content, immune-supporting beta-glucan, psychological familiarity, and preparation flexibility. Buy them in bulk. Repackage them in Mylar for long-term storage. There is no simpler, more cost-effective, more versatile cornerstone of a crisis food supply. Number 3. Lentils. When historians and anthropologists look back at the foods that sustained human civilization through famine, siege, migration, and hardship, lentils appear with extraordinary consistency across nearly every culture and every era of recorded history. They have been cultivated for at least 13,000 years, among the oldest domesticated crops in human history, predating wheat and barley in some archaeological records. Lentil seeds have been found in Egyptian tombs. Roman legions carried them as primary field rations. Medieval European populations relied on them through repeated crop failures. Refugee populations around the world today depend on lentil distributions from humanitarian organizations as one of the primary sources of nutrition during displacement. If there is one food that the history of human hardship has repeatedly validated as essential, it is the lentil. There is a reason for this consistency that nutritional science explains clearly. Lentils are approximately 25% protein by dry weight. They provide the complete range of B vitamins, substantial iron, folate, magnesium, potassium, and phosphorus. Their fiber content is exceptional. A single cup of cooked lentils provides nearly 16 grams of dietary fiber, roughly half the adult daily requirement from a single serving. They are one of the lowest glycemic index carbohydrate sources available, meaning they provide sustained energy without blood sugar spikes, which matters enormously for sustained physical and cognitive performance across the long, demanding days of a crisis. When combined with a grain, rice, oats, wheat, corn, lentils form a complete amino acid profile. The amino acids that grains lack are present in lentils, and the amino acids that lentils lack are present in grains. This principle of protein complementarity was the nutritional foundation of traditional diets in every culture that discovered lentils independently. You do not need meat or dairy to get complete protein if you have lentils and grains. This is not a theoretical claim or a modern nutritional innovation. It is how hundreds of millions of people in South Asia, the Middle East, and the Mediterranean basin have maintained adequate protein nutrition for thousands of years. Dried lentils stored in sealed containers last indefinitely for practical purposes. The protein and carbohydrate content remains stable for decades, though cooking time increases and vitamin content degrades gradually after several years. Unlike dried beans, lentils require no soaking. They cook in 20 to 30 minutes in boiling water, which significantly reduces fuel consumption compared to chickpeas, kidney beans, or other legumes that require an hour or more of simmering. This efficiency matters when cooking fuel is a limited resource. Variety within lentils is worth noting for practical purposes. Green lentils hold their shape when cooked and work well in soups and stews where texture matters. Red lentils break down quickly into a smooth, thick porridge, ideal for preparations that require minimal fuel since they soften faster than any other legume and create a creamy consistency naturally. Black lentils, sometimes called beluga lentils, have a firmer texture and slightly higher antioxidant content due to their dark pigmentation. Stocking multiple varieties costs minimally more and provides the dietary variety that prevents food fatigue. Lentils also absorb flavors readily. The turmeric, cumin, and garlic that you'll have in your stockpile transform a pot of plain lentils into something genuinely satisfying. That combination, lentils, grains, and spices, has fed billions of people across thousands of years. It will feed you too. They are cheap. They are filling. They provide protein that most other shelf-stable foods cannot match. A 20-pound bag costs $10 to $15 and represents over 400 grams of protein from a single purchase. Number 2. Raw honey. Raw honey has already appeared in our videos as a food that never expires, and that property alone would earn it a place on this list. But honey's case for inclusion here goes far beyond shelf life. Honey is one of the most nutritionally and medically complete foods available to human beings, and in a long-term crisis scenario it functions simultaneously as food, medicine, wound treatment, preservative, sweetener, and caloric energy source, a range of functions that no single item on this list can match. The caloric density of honey is high, approximately 60 calories per tablespoon, derived almost entirely from natural sugars in a ratio and form that the body absorbs and processes as efficiently. Glucose and fructose in roughly equal proportion provide both immediate and slightly delayed energy without the extreme blood sugar spike associated with refined sugar, and in a scenario where energy demands are elevated and food is rationed, honey provides rapid, clean, caloric energy without any preparation, cooking, or processing required. It is one of the only foods you can consume directly in its stored form with zero preparation whatsoever. The antimicrobial properties of honey are among the most extensively documented of any food substance in medical literature. The mechanism is multifactorial and robust. Honey's high sugar concentration creates osmotic pressure that draws water out of bacterial cells, desiccating them. Its low water activity, the measure of free water available for microbial growth, prevents virtually all bacterial growth. It contains hydrogen peroxide produced continuously by the enzyme glucose oxidase when diluted with wound exudate. In raw honey specifically, it contains bee-derived antimicrobial compounds, including defensin-1 and various phenolic acids, flavonoids, and organic acids that provide antibacterial action through additional pathways. Manuka honey, derived from the New Zealand manuka bush, has the most concentrated version of these properties due to its exceptionally high methyl glyoxal content. But all raw honey demonstrates meaningful antimicrobial activity that processed, filtered honey partially loses during manufacturing. Honey has been used as a wound dressing across virtually every medical tradition in human history. Egyptian papyri, Ayurvedic texts, Greek and Roman medicine all describe it. Modern wound care research has validated this application extensively. Applied to wounds, honey creates a moist antimicrobial environment that inhibits infection, reduces inflammation, promotes granulation tissue formation, and supports healing. In a crisis where antibiotics are unavailable, honey applied to a wound is a legitimate first-line treatment with meaningful evidence behind it. Medical-grade honey wound care products, sold under names like Medihoney, are used in hospital wound care today. You don't need medical-grade honey. Regular raw honey performs similarly in emergency applications. Beyond its direct nutritional and medical applications, honey preserves other foods. Fruits, nuts, and other perishables submerged in honey are protected from spoilage by the same antimicrobial mechanisms that make it effective as a wound treatment. Honey-preserved garlic develops a complex, sweet, savory flavor that makes it both a culinary asset and a functional food in its own right. Honey-preserved ginger, lemon, and herbs create remedies for colds, sore throats, and digestive upset without any pharmaceutical inputs. Buy raw, unfiltered honey, not the processed, filtered, heat-treated variety that fills most grocery store shelves. That product has had many of its bioactive compounds degraded by the heating process used to prevent crystallization and extend appearance shelf life. Raw honey costs more but stores indefinitely and delivers the full range of compounds that give honey its functional value. Store it in glass jars away from direct sunlight. It may crystallize over time. That is normal and does not indicate spoilage. Gentle warming restores it to a liquid state without damaging its compounds. Stock as much as your budget and storage space reasonably allow. And number 1, quinoa. Quinoa is, by a meaningful margin, the single most nutritionally complete shelf-stable food available to the ordinary consumer. That claim deserves unpacking because it sounds like exactly the kind of marketing language this video began by dismissing. But the nutritional profile of quinoa earns this description based on one specific, rare, and critically important property. It is a complete protein from a plant source. Complete protein means a food contains all 9 essential amino acids in quantities that meet or exceed human nutritional requirements. Animal products, meat, fish, eggs, dairy are complete proteins. Most plant foods are not. Rice is deficient in lysine. Beans are deficient in methionine. Corn is deficient in lysine and tryptophan. Wheat is deficient in lysine. The entire strategy of protein complementarity, combining different plant proteins to form a complete amino acid profile, exists specifically because most plant foods are incomplete on their own. Quinoa is an exception. It contains all 9 essential amino acids in a profile that nutritional scientists classify as high quality by the PTEA score, the Protein Digestibility Corrected Amino Acid Score, that is the international standard measure for evaluating protein completeness. Its PCS is effectively equivalent to egg white, which is the benchmark against which all other protein sources are measured. In practical terms, you can sustain complete protein nutrition from quinoa alone, without combining it with other protein sources. In a scenario where meat, fish, eggs, and dairy have disappeared from your diet entirely, this property is not a minor nutritional footnote. It is the difference between protein sufficiency and protein deficiency over the medium and long term, with all the immune, muscular, cognitive, and hormonal consequences that protein deficiency progressively produces. Beyond its complete protein profile, quinoa provides an exceptional range of micronutrients. A single cup of cooked quinoa delivers 8 grams of protein, 5 grams of fiber, and significant amounts of magnesium, phosphorus, manganese, folate, copper, iron, zinc, potassium, and B vitamins. It is naturally gluten-free, which matters for the meaningful percentage of the population with celiac disease or Gluten, a consideration that becomes acute when you're feeding a group of people with varied nutritional needs over extended periods. Its glycemic index is substantially lower than white rice and most other grain alternatives, providing more stable blood sugar and more sustained energy across the long hours of a crisis day without the mid-morning crash that refined grain breakfasts produce. Quinoa stores exceptionally well. Sealed in airtight containers in cool, dark conditions, it retains nutritional quality for 2 to 3 years. In mylar bags with oxygen absorbers, this extends to 5 years or more. It cooks in 15 minutes, faster than rice, faster than most grains, requiring only boiling water and a heat source. The mild, slightly nutty flavor adapts to virtually any culinary application. Breakfast porridges with honey and chia seeds, grain bowls with lentils and turmeric, soups thickened by its natural starch, and side dishes alongside any protein source. It absorbs the flavors of spices, herbs, and aromatics the same way rice does, making it adaptable to any cuisine style your household prefers. The price is higher than white rice or dried beans. This is the honest limitation, and it deserves acknowledgement. Quinoa in bulk costs 2 to 3 times more per pound than comparable caloric staples. But when you account for its complete amino acid profile, its micronutrient density, and the fact that it eliminates the need to carefully plan protein complementarity across multiple foods, the cost premium is justified in a way that few other food upgrades are. For the most nutritionally vulnerable members of your household, children whose growing bodies have elevated protein requirements, elderly adults whose protein absorption is reduced, pregnant women with dramatically increased nutritional demands, anyone with a compromised immune system. Quinoa's complete protein is not a luxury premium. It is the responsible choice and a meaningful investment in the health outcomes of the people who depend on you. Here is the full picture. A long-term crisis does not end in 3 days or 3 weeks. The scenarios that emergency preparedness is genuinely concerned with: extended grid failure, regional supply chain collapse, sustained economic disruption, prolonged natural disaster aftermath, play out over months and years. The body you maintain during that period is the instrument you have to solve every problem the situation presents. Your cognitive capacity, your immune resilience, your physical stamina, your emotional stability, your ability to work, plan, lead, and protect. All of it depends on what you put into your body over the weeks and months before any of that becomes necessary. Calories keep you alive. These 10 superfoods keep you functional. The people who come through long-term hardship most intact are not the ones who stored the most calories. They are the ones who maintained their nutritional health, their cognitive sharpness, their immune function, and their physical capability while the people around them deteriorated. That distinction matters more than most people recognize until they're in a situation where they have no choice but to recognize it. Start with what you can afford. A bag of lentils and a jar of honey costs less than $10 and represents a genuine foundation. Add one item at a time. Oats this week, turmeric and black pepper next week, a jar of coconut oil the week after. Add to your stockpile consistently over time rather than trying to do everything at once. Rotate your stores so nothing expires unused. Learn to cook with these foods now, before you need to, so that the recipes and habits are already part of your routine when they become essential rather than learned under pressure. And build a pantry that doesn't just sustain your body through the worst, but gives it what it needs to perform, to think clearly, to heal, and to endure whatever comes.